and great to see all of you here. Yeah, hopefully I can give something back to you now, talking on this topic. I will start by showing you this. I got this in my email this morning. I think it's pretty much about what is happening around us. How to manage the times that are changing, as one says. And I think, as we talked about yesterday at the dinner, the solution ain't to turn off the computers and let every kid go out in the forest and play. I think we need other kinds of solutions and other kinds of approaches to these kinds of media. Basically, this presentation will be on my strive, actually, to better understand the condition of young people of today. My background is as not just working right now at Stockholm University, as said, but I'm also a preschool teacher, and that's my background into this field. I'm interested in better understand the condition of young people of today. And this presentation is based on a research project called the GTO project that is about construction and normalization of gender online among young people in Estonia and in Sweden. There will be some glimpses from the data we have in that project. I try to give some kind of theoretical framework to understand, at least as I think could be a way of understanding what they are talking about and what they are showing in online media. And the keywords would be something like this: tweens, consumption, and media. And I'll try to move around between these three concepts. Are you familiar with the tweens concept? That was a wrong way of asking the question. Those that ain't familiar with the tweens concept, raise a hand, please. You are all familiar with it, right? But before going into that kind of stuff, some statistics. As you all know, since the early 1990s, actually, internet distribution and access to online services has exploded. Whereas the numbers of users in 1995 on internet was around 60 million. Today, there are 2.3 billion users of internet, and that is 15 years' time. That is, when one thinks about it, dramatic, obviously. More than 50% of the 9 to 11 years old in Sweden use internet daily. And a study presented today said that 1/3 of every kid 7 to 11 have a smart mobile phone. 1/3. And statistics also say that there are differences between what boys and girls do when being online. Boys play computer games, whereas girls are into social media. As with statistics, it is not the whole truth, obviously. It was this one. Girls do play computer games, and boys are into social media as well, of course. But there are statistical differences between the genders. And that is important, I think, and it's important how to approach that scenario. This presentation is by and large about social media, social networking, and preferably about how to present oneself when being online in social media. And I will move around within different kinds of theoretical frameworks to understand these kind of, the concepts of digital generation, the net generation, digital natives, all these kinds of concepts. I think it is important that we understand that there is, by and large, a big difference between the young people today, the ones 10 to 12 years old, as you know, and like myself, when growing up with a black and white television set and two channels to choose from, and that was all. The only active media consumption for me was to move to the television set and change the channels. And then something has happened. But going from the numbers to the real people, this is a citation from a girl. Are you familiar with fjortis? That concept? No. It's a Swedish term. If I say 14, you know what I mean. The number 14, the age being 14 years old. And it is a condescending term. It's something you don't want to be. It's like a mixture of a wannabe and not being able to handle the situation and presenting myself in a way that most of the peers don't approach to. And it is a term used by practically everyone in Sweden today. Fjortis is something you don't want to be, regardless of age. If you're 10 or 12 years old, you don't want to be fjortis. You could be fjortis as well, but you don't want to be that. So it's not something to strive for. It's something you absolutely don't want to be. It's about how to present yourself, how to dress, how to behave. Want to be childish. And here, age is obviously an important marker for how to behave, how to act in these kinds of sites. In this particular case, it's a statement about this social networking site Playerhead that was hugely popular up until 2007. And there were about 1 million users in Sweden on Playerhead. But practically overnight, but a couple of months, it was completely out of date. You didn't want to be associated with this platform. So it was a huge migration of young people from Playerhead to Facebook, of course. And this is, as I think, a consequence of cumulative actions rather than a conscious decision. Playerhead, it's not about Playerhead not being the place to be. It's about everyone else is moving, so I have to myself. And this goes back to the idea about identity, on where you want to be. And in this respect, in my presentation here, in our project, it's the idea of identity that is a fluid identity, the non-stable and nomadic identity. That it's an identity that is made and unmade, claimed and rejected. And it's an incomplete, constantly fragmented and partial identity. And it's also a multidimensional identity. And this identity is built by relationships. And as I said, a constant negotiation. And it is constantly challenged. You have to be aware of your identity, and you have to constantly reshape your identity. And one aspect here is with relation to the tweens phenomenon. Tweens being these young people having the power of being consumers, as you know. And it's this kind of situation that are growing up with digital media, mobile phones, and social networks that experience the world in another way than we do. The television set was one example. But by and large, this is basic constructivist theory going on here. The idea of the social cultural, or with Vygotsky, as you're familiar with, the historical and the cultural is what shapes us. And we are shaping the simultaneously we are shaping this history, this culture. And in this intertwining, in this interaction between ourselves and this context that we are immersed in, we experience the world. And as we experience the world, we experience ourselves and we shape the world around us. And it is with necessity, so otherwise we will be like guinea pigs with no remembrance of anything at all. But our remembrance, our memories, our experiences shape us. And again, this is very important, at least for me, to understand what is happening. What you experience as a young child fosters your way of thinking practically the whole way through your life. You remember what your parents told you when you were 6 or 7. You remember what your peers said to you when you were 5 or 4. And these are very, very, very important experiences. Not to mention the television programs in the 1970s that I watched with my parents. And something important has happened with the media. And one of the key concepts here, I think, is multi-modality. And this comes from social semiotic theory by Tweens and others. And one important characteristic here of digital media in relation to young people when creating their identities online is how different modalities are coming together in ways not possible in traditional medias. The traditional electronic medias were dependent. The modalities in these kind of medias, traditional medias, were dependent upon the shortcomings of the media. Now it's the other way around. The media invites you to create new connections between different modalities. When having a camera, you're stuck with a still image. There is nothing more that you can do. When having a radio, you're stuck with the sound. There is nothing more that you can do. With a computer, all these things are coming together. And it's up to you and your creativity to find new ways of communicating, of finding your way of expressing yourself or your thoughts. And one important aspect, or consequence rather, of this is that every child, when coming to school, can read and produce text. And this is a text and the reading in the broader sense, obviously, but it's needed to text concept, the reading concept, need to include this broad idea of reading or writing. And furthermore, reading is then the intertwining of reading and producing, of viewer and producer in many different modalities or multi-modalities. So the concept of reading and writing need to be changed. Take a look at this image. Here, this young Swedish girl is producing herself, producing her body. It's an updated body, it's post-produced, to use a concept from media genre. And also, not just herself that is produced and post-produced, also the image, of course. And being part of this online dialogue, the meeting and creation of several body selves, so to speak, is an ongoing mirroring of the notion of post-production. This version here of myself is a response to the responses of the previous version, the previous presentation. I was striving for the next edition of myself. And all this is happening within the creative space of the peer culture. And also, obviously, she's doing gender here. She's not just producing herself, she's also making gender. And telling And she does this by marketing herself, telling about her love, and positioning her in a rather subordinate position, like girls should do according to the cultural norms. That is one dimension there, and we'll come back to that of course. But another dimension is that she has obviously communicative skills here, and that are executed there, the positioning of herself, the mashing of different genres, different modes, the image, the text, the graphical element, and the post-production. She's a fluent user of digital media. And also, she's fluent in doing gender. And in this respect, gender is obviously understood as the social construction of norms and values related to the stereotypical binary categories of men and women, of the masculine and the feminine, and the power dimensions associated with these categories. And this means that we as citizens, we as humans, regardless of age, are shaped in accordance with these stereotypes, in accordance with these stereotypes. I will give you more examples of this shortly. But just as gender is constructed and done, so is age, of course. And this social construction of age is an important marker for stratification, making the child a subordinate human being in relation to the adult world. And that age is such an important marker among children is obvious. Just listen to how children speak to each other, how they strive for being older, like competence and biological age would be the same thing, which is obviously isn't. And there is also this biological age, the intertwining of the biological age, the cultural age, what you are supposed to manage at a certain age. In Sweden, you are supposed to be ready for school when you are 7. And that was when I grew up. Now you are supposed to be ready for school when you are 6. Start 1 year earlier. And you are supposed to be ready to ride a bicycle when you're 4 years old or whatever. There is also, intersecting here, is the idea of the theoretical age. Me as a preschool teacher, we had these observation protocols stating when 11-month-old, the kid should be able to do this or that, and that will be get marked in these charts. And when you're 2 years old, you're supposed to do this, and when you're 3, you're supposed to do this. And this is what makes many parents, I think, very uncertain about their own position and their position towards a child. Is my child in accordance with the theories? Is my child in accordance with the normal curves, the normal balance? And these are just constructions. These are based on theories. But they position the child, because these are tools to think with. We are fostered into these ways of thinking. But I think you agree with me, enough with theories for a little while here. Going back to the data. And now, this is a boy. It is more girls than boys who take photos that are challenging, he says. The way to act in front of the camera is a cultural convention, as you know. A norm that is often seen is in advertising, as well in news media. And also that the notion of the challenging, as this boy is talking about, is based on such norms, where boys' ways of acting, and in our data, when boys are acting in the photos that are published online, they are riding bikes, they are playing football, they are out running with their friends. these are never seen as challenging, neither by themselves nor by the girls. And the notion of the challenging is intertwined with norms about sexuality, or what is the sexually active or inviting or the sexually appropriate way of being. And it is the girls that are positioned as being challenging. And one has to ask oneself, is that because they are challenging in relation to their peer culture, or are they challenging in relation to our culture, our norms about not necessarily what is appropriate way of being? Just look at the advertising industry and the advertising, but our idea about how young girls should behave. And in that case, it is we that position the girls as challenging and say to the boys that you are to see the girls as sexually challenging. I think you follow me. These are questions, of course. I think that my idea is that the ones that are silent do agree with me. I should have said that earlier, I think. But that goes for my whole presentation here. The ones that are silent do agree with me. So I feel it's rather comfortable right now, because you all agree with me. This is another example. The most popular photos must be those where girls are scantily dressed and their boobs are pushed up. This is from an Estonian girl, talking about an Estonian site called Raped, which was exactly that. They were raping each other. And it was rather obvious what kind of images were the most popular, helping us to see their peer cultures, of course. But in this case, being 10 years old and having this as the kind of notion of how to be popular, there are obvious challenges for her to be that popular. And at the same time, what we are witnessing here is that the body is something made, something produced within the norms of the peer culture. The body has, in a sense, become a marketplace where values are consumed as well as projected onto this body surface. The body, both the physical as well as the artificial one of the avatar, is made by the actions of the subject and at the same time consumed by the surrounding culture, by the peers. And the body is open for negotiation. Just to mention the plastic surgery industry. Obviously, our body is a project that we have to take care of, or the popularity with tattooing right now. On this explicit presentation of the body self in online profiles, then Boyd writes, profiles both represent the individual and serve as the locus of interaction. Because of the inherent social and often public or semi-public nature of profiles, participants actively and consciously craft their profiles to be seen by others. I think that this process of self-reflection is further fueled by the consumption of a wide range of mediated expressions on how to look and how to take care of the body. Obviously, this project of the self is prominent in the tween years, reflecting a culture where identity is something multidimensional and relational, and a response to the pervasive challenge of the contemporary society to create and interpret oneself. And these gender stereotypes of the mass media are an integrated part of the private space. This means that the private space is a strong influence on ideals and norms, at the same time as the private subject often is portrayed and displayed in the public space. In the everyday life of the young, of the contemporary, the categories of the private and the public are meshed together, creating this public space. Rather. And one of the best illustrations of this, I think, is the bathroom image that you have all seen that. That kind of photograph, you're taking a photograph of yourself in front of the bathroom image. Here, 3 boys are talking about these kinds of images. And as you see, they don't want to be connected with those kinds of images. Rather, they cannot imagine themselves posing by the bathroom mirror. Or perhaps better, cannot imagine themselves posing in front of the bathroom mirror, taking photos and publishing them. This would definitely go down as fjortis and would never be forgiven. There are images within the peer culture of the so-called fjortis guys that are circulating and used as a warning examples of how not to be. Still, they are posing, of course, in front of mirrors as well. These are 4 Estonian boys. But they are positioning themselves in ways that they can act with some kind of decency, of course. As compared to this couple of years younger, but still you see the difference, the different kinds of posing, the different kinds of strategies used to show relationships, to show friendships, to show who is important to me and in what way. There is also, if you look closer to these 2 kinds of images, these 2 images, the positioning of the camera is one further element here that does position the boys from slightly below. The camera is rather slightly below them, whereas the girls are below the camera in that respect. You can see that. And this is a classic way of portraying girls and boys, men and women, found in popular culture, found in news media, found in advertising, found in Lene Riefenstahl in her films from the Berlin Olympics, and found within the tween peer culture. They are competent users of these digital media. And I think it's important to ask ourselves the kind of questions of what can we learn from images like this? What are they saying about being young today? About the possibilities of social media? And they also ask questions, and I think you agree, about contemporary culture, contemporary society that is already there for them to take part of, to appropriate in their life world. These conventions, these constructions are not created but recreated by the young one. And I go back to theory again. Intersectional theory talks about power differentials and identity markers. How these are intertwined with each other and creating different kinds of power structures. Such markers and differentials could be gender, could be sexuality, age, disabilities, ethnicity, class, and so on. they are not just intersections in an old way, but rather these kinds of intersections. Going back to the idea of the identity as something fluid, as something coming together by the assemblage of structures, processes, and subjectivities. And again, gender is something done, age is done, ethnicity is done, sexuality is done, and they do interact, these categories interact and with each other and mutually construct each other. This girl, being 12 years old, she's from Estonia. Talks about how different, talks about impressions actually, talks about points of reference, talks about what she is striving for, and also about the challenges of being someone in this flow of information, in this flow of identities, is this flow of inspirations. And obviously, the media user here is very much more than a receiver or a reader. If we listen to these young people, the media users of the 21st century are competent makers of their relational identity. They are creators of not just media content or the collective intelligence as discussed by Pierre Levin, but they are creators of their own ontologies, of their own selves, of their identities, of their beings. And this online body self is a serious matter. And it is a multimodal body, simultaneously present in different spaces, both online and offline. These two also interact with each other. And I think I just want to show you one more slide, one more citation, but this is a theory. And with that, and with opening up for a discussion, hopefully. And this is from Lisa Nakamura. There was, at least in the mid-1990s, an idea about internet and what we today call social media, that if we can act in a way that are separated from our physical bodies, that we didn't have to take into consideration, so to speak, our own body selves, this body bag, so to speak. We could be wherever we wanted, in the online forums, in the online arenas. And if we could be wherever we wanted to be, then, of course, we could respect each other in new ways, respecting each other for who they are and not for the surface. And that was the naive utopia of the mid-90s. And what has happened is, like Lisa Nakamura is writing about, stereotypes, norms, values become reproduced within social media. But, and I think there are two parts here for me. One is, when looking at young people, the norms, the constructions, the stereotypes are constructed by us and not by the young people. And the other thing is, they do negotiate, they do interpret, and they do create something out of this. And we might be able to help them to create something that challenges these kinds of norms and stereotypes, as so vividly expressed by Nakamura. That was in short, actually, what I wanted to present to you and taking with me, again, you are very silent, but I hope you don't agree with me. The idea was to open up for some kind of comments or discussions or, things to say. You can find the presentation here, by the way. Please.
Okay.
Objections.
Thank you, Mr. Hernwall. And on the message wall, we have some questions for you. We will start from the bottom. What are the main challenges being an adult and trying to educate and support young people in this digital society?
Being an educator, was that the key phrase? Sorry.
What are the main challenges being an adult and trying to educate and support young people in this digital society?
Okay, I'm an academic, so you could turn yourself and ask the audience here. I think they are working with these kinds of problems, as I understand it. But I think one of, and I would love to hear them answering this as well, but I think my short answer would be to challenge ourselves, I think. To move away from the norms and values that we are fostering. There is a theorist called Andy Clark that said, the brain is very plastic. We are easily adopted to new ways of thinking, to new challenges. The problem is that our cognitive structures are very difficult to change. It's easy for the brain to adapt, but our thinking is very, very slow. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges, actually.
Yes, and another question. Are the expectations of parents on their children's normal development more diverse due to the fact that lives are now spent more online and different ways of being are more public?
I think you are reading questions here, are you?
Yeah.
I would love to see them, because
Okay. I can show you.
Yeah, please.
So the question was, are the expectations of parents on their children's normal development more diverse due to the fact that lives are now spent more online and different ways of being are more public?
I have trouble answering what the expectations of parents are, obviously. I think that every time, and it's you can answer this in many, many ways, and I think the best way of answering is to sit down to discuss it, actually, for a long time. But I think we have always, in the Western culture, been kind of objecting to challenges, or objecting to changes in the society, especially when they come from media. And I think that the children are coping, ain't they? I think the children are coping with the situation. It is we that doesn't understand the children. It is we that see something else than what we have expected and wanted to see that have the biggest problems. Of course, there are challenges. There have been always challenges with raising children. There are bullying online. There are people that doesn't have, even though that 95, 98, or 99% of all 12 or 14 years old have internet at home, there are still some that doesn't have it. And these are the challenges, but these are challenges that goes back to what Lisa Nakamura said. These are challenges that based on the societal structures that are there already before the social media or the digital media came.
So I will have a sub-question at this, because we're seeing evolution of brains development now. So is it, I really think that it's faster in kids and their cognitive learning in the ways they learn, because they're using more frantic ways of learning than when we were kids. So what do you see the future in this super brain evolution that the kids are seeing and having now? Is the learning so fast now?
I'm not into the brain research field, actually, and I'm not so certain it is that way. It would be a dramatic change in our evolution if it was, but regardless, something dramatic is happening. I think it's impossible to say actually. But still, if we look at what is happening here and look at the qualities that are there without our own prejudices, and if we try to take a step 5 years into the future, and then position ourselves in that position and take another 5 years into the future, then we will have problems in foreseeing it. We could take one step at a time, I think, and that is why these are very interesting times. But I think one of the important aspects here is, and that is my other interest in my research, is the schooling system. And how to make use of, because what you're saying, regardless of the brain research, if that is correct or not, that's not the point here. The point is that we know very, very much about cognitive development. We know very much about the brain. We know very much about creativity. We know how to foster creativity. We know very, very, very much. But the schooling system, our structures for how to position the children are based on something that was developed 150, 200 years ago. And that is not the way of, if we want to foster our children, we want to help them into the future, we have to change. And that is the biggest challenge, I think. Because the children, they are the way they are.
Yes, thank you. A few more questions. Your study shows that girls and boys use the internet differently. So should we educate them differently in relation to media? And how can we take this into account in schools?
I think that what is shown, I would love to see that what is showing is how the children are coping with the norms and values that we have produced for them to take part of. I think that we need to change our attitude towards these gender differences in a way. And I think that one way of illustrating that is that, well, of course, I think the debate is pretty much the same in Finland as in Sweden. But when talking about young people and being media users, the example is always boys playing computer games, and they will be the future because they will go into, be the market, I don't find my words here, higher education, and then get the big money. But I think that one of the most important skills that we will need in the future, whatever that is, already today, is the communicative skills, the relational skills. And these are the skills that the girls are exploring. The girls are being masters of these kinds of skills, not the boys. And I think that we need to find ways of appropriating and lifting up and appreciate this kind of different skills, regardless of age.
Yes, thank you. And one more question. How do you see the controversy between the moral panic of little girls in the very adult-like feminine advertising photographs, for example, and the fact that those are made out less that they sell?
What can I say? I'm afraid I will repeat myself here, but I think that moral panics have been around for a very, very long time, and they will continue to be there if we want them. I think that is. I don't really understand the question actually. I see some keywords here. I see moral panic and the controversy, and I see little girls, very adult. Okay, young girls selling pictures. I think that's the most good question. It's a problem. It's a problem of we fostering our kids into being like reflections of ourselves, I think. we can help them, we can make them into something else, but we need to get into these kinds of social media, we need to be there, and we need to help them to find what kind of structures are there. And we can do that. We have tried to do that within our research project, having workshops with children, but that is a very little thing to do. But in the everyday life, in the schooling, in their free time, in their homes, being there with the children and helping them to understand the world they are living in. And being good examples. I think that's basically that. Then there will always be problems. But that is about how humans behave, not what the character of the media are.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hernwall. We will continue in a short while with the questionnaire. You can have a